It has 4 cylinders, 4 pistons. Let's make it all move in one tact. Let's do this. Sneezing? Oh yeah, it was erupting. You don't know what you're doing? But everything's okay. This time the results are bound to be excellent. Though I might want to use third. Second is a bit much. Come on! Hey there, fellas. I've got some good news. Now, fairly recently, we experimented with cutting and welding together a crankshaft, which worked pretty well. As a matter of fact, that crankshaft is still in one piece. The car we installed it into is still on the road, everything works, and that opens up a bunch of new possibilities for us. In terms of other stuff for us to try, I had a great time reading through the comments to that first video. Somebody made a remark about a Range Rover that was pretty clever. In any case, in this episode we will be modifying a lot of engine. So long before we tried cutting and welding up a crankshaft to see how long that's able to last, we actually had this idea to synchronize all of the cylinders, so that all 4 pistons in all of the 4 cylinders come up all at the same time. And then you guys. Now, I was very pleased to see the comments underneath that crankshaft video, with people suggesting we give it a try. And so right here we've got this engine, and if we've proven that welding is a viable solution, then let's go ahead and take this engine apart, cut the crankshaft to pieces, make it so the pistons work in one tact, reassemble everything. Then we modify the camshaft, the ignition system, and all of that jazz. Now, the latter part, we'll be tending to parallel to assembly. Otherwise, I think we should solve problems as they start to pop up. So here's the engine. It has 4 cylinders, 4 pistons. Let's make it all move in one tact. Let's do this. Fellas, big thanks for taking so many pictures with our merch. You want some drip like this for yourself? Then check out our latest collection of merch. We've got some trendy hoodies, some toasty vests, stylish hats and t-shirts, baseball caps to suit anybody's taste, mugs, stickers, and of course some goodies for your cars. Air fresheners, license plate frames, document holders, key fobs. Hit the link in the description to get yourself some Garage54 goodness. Get yourself some merch and don't forget to use the code Garage54, which is good for a solid discount. Okay, fellas, we've removed the crankshaft and laid it onto the bench, and here's what we need to do now. On a normal engine, the pistons move in pairs, 2 with 3 and 1 with 4. So those 2 pairs maintain a balance to keep the engine from jumping out of the engine bay. And so now we need to find a way to make them fire all at once. To achieve that, we'll hack the crankshaft in 2 spots along the main journals, and then we position the pieces in such a way so that the rod journals line up in a row. Now, previously, we used this engine block as a jig to evenly weld up that crankshaft, and that's exactly what we're doing this time. So we bolt the pieces down inside the block, tighten them, and weld them all together. Let's do this. Alright, so the welding process is well underway, the journals are cooling down, everything is looking good. And in the meantime, we've decided to work on the ignition system. Now, since the pistons will be moving in one simultaneous stroke, we need to adjust the ignition timing accordingly. Not to mention the camshaft needs to be modified to make sure the valves are all synchronized and don't interfere with any of the pistons. That we'll get to a bit later, but right now we're going to tweak the distributor. Cylinder 1 is going to be the point of departure, and so here we already had a look at where the rotor needs to be, but then we also got a Hall effect sensor inside the distributor, which is how it keeps track of what's going on. Now, we've been sitting here guessing when exactly it generates a spark. When it disengages or when you've got metal-on-metal contact. Induction occurs, a signal is sent to the switch. So the part that's got us confused is whether we use a welder to fill the apertures, or we cut the tabs off. That's what we're dealing with. I suggest we try putting together a sort of test setup on that motor, and simply spin it around while observing to see when it generates a spark. Man, I can already see the comments. You don't know what you're doing, but everything's okay. I'm sure this will be of interest to a lot of people. Okay, let's rig this up and have a look, shall we? Okay, fellas, here's what we've decided to do. We've welded up all of the apertures except for just one. We did that so that when the rotor gets into position to fire in cylinder number 1, we get a signal for a spark. Let's show the people. Aw, dude! Are you trying to blow the place up or something? And now look, when you've got the aperture aligned, simultaneously we've got a spark at the plug, which looks a bit weak to be honest. Then again, I could be wrong. I think we just need to install a few coils so that we get spark in all 4 cylinders at once. That'll ignite the mixture. It's all rather simple. Okay, fellas, so look here. We've assembled everything. After doing a bit of welding to the distributor to leave it with a single aperture, which means that cylinder number 1 is triggering the spark, right here we've set up some ignition coils, and I take it we won't even need a cap, since there won't be any actual distribution happening. I mean, we're still going to be fitting the cap in the name of safety, just to make sure the rotor doesn't reel anybody in. Is there something you wanted to say? The Hall effect sensor is responsible for distribution. The Hall effect sensor sends a signal to the switch, and hopefully we can make do with just one of those to handle the signal and make sure that all 4 coils generate a spark. That's something that we're about to test in just a moment. Right, and what about the camshaft? Well, that was actually very easy to sort. We removed all of the cam lobes and modeled the camshaft after cylinder number 1's profile. Essentially, we made it so that cylinder 1 and the other 3 have identical valve timing. So we've set the entire thing up to follow cylinder 1 in function, and honestly, we've all seen 2-stroke engines with 1 cylinder, but 4-stroke? I don't think I've ever seen one of those before. No, doesn't want to. Now, you know what I think? It starts to ignite the fuel, it doesn't seem to have enough momentum. Yeah, you're right. You want to maybe try quick start? Nah man, ether is gonna evaporate. That smoke is coming from the terminals. Right, we have failed to fire it up using the starter. Looks like we put too much stress on it. We saw the battery voltage plummet. I guess it's just too weak for the task. It appears that it won't be able to get the job done. And so I suggest we make this easy on ourselves and go find some kind of car with no engine to install this one into. Then we tie it to another car and tow it until we can get this motor to run. Do what's possible to get this to work. Alright, let's slap this onto a car and go for a drive. Let's do this. Okay, so everything is ready. We're looking good. However, there is a caveat. Given that we have an engine where all 4 pistons are reciprocating in one motion, the balance is going to be just terrible. Man, I really hope the motor doesn't jump out, but then the gearbox would hold it in, wouldn't it? But that's gonna be secured to the body, and it's gonna be transferring all of that movement to it. Once I'm out driving, that is going to utterly destroy the suspension. And with that in mind, it might be a good idea to give it a once-over. The shock absorbers on this are most likely trash, so let's go ahead and throw on a set of nice new ones to prevent the car from being all over the place once we're out on the road. And then we head out to try and start that engine. Okay, so we've prepared the car, everything is looking really good. Wow, what a modern look with all of those coils. So this is the setup we've decided to go with. 4 of these, a modified distributor, and you've got 4 pistons coming up at once that create a lot of resistance on the way up. Right then, let's tie this to another car and try to get it to start. I mean, it's not like we have a ton of alternative options. Come on now. Wait a minute, Sergey. Okay. Wait. I think we need to play around with the ignition timing. Advance it? Okay. Man, everything keeps falling. And it's no longer even firing. Have we advanced it too far? Shouldn't it at least be coughing? After 25 attempts. So after fiddling with the ignition, this time the results are bound to be excellent. Though I might want to use third. Second is a bit much. Come on! Nope, better use second. Third gear was the wrong choice. Come on, start, please. You're almost able to on the starter. It's running! It is running! Eat that! Whoever said this was impossible, it was possible after all. Sergey! I need to keep the gas pedal pressed. The handbrake used to work on this, right? You can even rev it. But the power's not quite there, I think. Well, it drives. There you have it. Though it does not feel all that powerful. How do I get over this edge? Oh man. It has 0 torque. It runs perfectly fine, but the engine doesn't really have a lot of torque. It just does not pull, what a bummer. Say what? It was spitting gas out. Yeah, that I did notice. Don't worry, I've got a fire extinguisher. You say a bunch of stuff has fallen apart? What's going on? Your car is broken. Wait, what happened to the muffler? Okay, well... Nope. But why doesn't it want to drive? It does go forward. Well, it seems to work. I think it's running. It is shaking like it was before. Looking good. Damn it. Let's go. All right, first gear. Nice. Now what if... Second gear, let's go. There we are. It's going. It is moving. It drives. Isn't that nice? I mean, it is pretty wild, but we are driving. However, come on now. Come on, move, will ya? For some reason, it really doesn't have a ton of torque. And I have no idea why that is. The engine has got 4 cylinders, 4 pistons to propel the car. Shouldn't they give you much more of a shove? Well, we are driving. That's first gear. And when you go for second, that's where it all falls apart. Whatever. At least we were able to drive a bit that way. Well, we were able to get it to start. And this ain't no Formula 1 engine by any means. We had all 4 pistons pushing at once, and in my imagination that should have made for plenty of torque. But as a matter of fact, when I went for second gear, I mean even so much when I was flipping around, a slight incline turned into a big problem. This lacks torque for some reason, despite my expectations. When you've got 4 cylinders firing all at once, you've got a lot of displacement and force exerted on the crankshaft, and I would have imagined that in that moment it would have given the car a crazy kick. But that was not the case. That feels weird. Also, adjusting the ignition was quite a pain, as you would have seen earlier in this video. Too much or too little and you've either got backfire or complete lack of desire to fire. Which is another curiosity. On a bone stock engine, you've got quite a lot of adjustability in terms of how you set the distributor. I mean, it is going to noticeably change how the engine operates, but here it seems to be especially sensitive. In any case, we were able to go for a drive. It was pretty fun. And curiously enough, nothing even came flying from out of the car. Though personally, I was expecting at least the crankshaft to give in. I mean, it was under an insane amount of stress. But in the end, it very much held up to the task. And that is yet another proof of concept. So apparently you can actually weld them. This one is welded, and it works. Okay, so you saw it all yourselves. I think it was a pretty hilarious episode. And that's all I got for you. Watch us, subscribe, suggestions, comments, give us a big thumbs up. Alright, catch you later. And how nice is this sunny weather? Maybe it'll be like this till the new year? Wouldn't that be awesome?